Welcome to the Ultimate Anime Reborn Tier List breakdown. Today, we're diving into all the units, from the mighty mythics to the humble rares, to figure out who truly deserves a spot on your team. Whether you're grinding through battles or just flexing on your friends with your roster, this list has got you covered. And hey, it's not just rankings, I'll explain the why behind every placement so you can see what makes these units shine, or why they fall short. From overpowered mythics that dominate the battlefield to those surprisingly useful epics and even the rares that might just save the day in a pinch, we've got something for every player. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly who to invest in, who to bench, and who to avoid like a filler episode. Let's jump right in. I'm quickly moving on to the video and I'm ranking units in Anime Reborn. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
A very small portion of the audience is subscribed to the channel. Please don't forget to subscribe if you like these types of videos. Thanks.
The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Uryu, Ichigo, Tintin, Kurulin, Laugvi, Sakura, Seijin, Susasake, Naruto, Usog, and Zero. Alright, let's talk Let's talk about the underdogs of Anime Reborn, the D tier units, you know, the ones you kind of regret pulling but keep around just in case. Think of this tier as the misfit toys of the Anime Reborn roster. They're not entirely useless, but they're also not winning any MVP awards. Let's dive in, and hey, don't shoot the messenger if your favorite unit made the list. First up, Uryu. Now, I'll admit she's trying her best, but that 25% chance to slow enemies feels more like a cruel joke than a real passive ability. Still, Uryu does have one redeeming quality: she can target air. So, if you're starting out and have absolutely nothing else for air units, she might save your bacon. Keyword, might. Now, let's talk about Ichigo, who's probably the most surprising entry here. This guy has a decent range, good DPS, and can target air units too. Honestly, for a hybrid unit you snag early in the game, Ichigo isn't half bad. He's like the hand-me-down sweater you didn't ask for but end up wearing all the time because it's oddly practical. Oh, and then there's Tintin. Poor Tintin. Her 10% attack boost from her passive is about as exciting as a Monday morning. She's the definition of filler content. A rare unit that doesn't really feel rare at all. Unless you're a hardcore completionist, Tintin probably won't even make it out of your storage. Kurulin though, this one's interesting. He's got air targeting capabilities, which immediately gives him a small gold star in the world of early story maps. He's not groundbreaking, but he gets the job done if the enemy lineup includes a bunch of pesky flying units. Reliable but forgettable, kind of like instant noodles. Now for Laugvi. Here's the thing, Laugvi is surprisingly decent for what he is. He has a cone AoE attack, which is pretty handy in those chaotic early game moments. Honestly, if you're just logging in for the first time and don't know who to pick, Laugvi isn't a bad choice. Think of him as the best of the meh squad. Moving on to Sakura, who, well, let's just say she's not winning any awards anytime soon. She's one of the cheapest rare units to place, which is something I guess. But beyond that, Sakura is kind of like bringing a spoon to a sword fight. Functional, but not exactly ideal. Now, let me introduce you to the shining gem of the rare unit world, Seijin. Yes, a D tier unit is actually worth using. This guy has full AoE, burn effects, great range, and, you won't believe this, 6 max placements. Seijin can easily carry you through those early stages like a boss. If you pull him, hold on to him like your favorite snack at a party. Finally, we've got Naruto. Okay, hear me out, he's actually viable. His passive gives him increased damage for every other Naruto in range, which means if you stack him properly, he can hit harder than you'd expect from a rare unit. It's not a game changer, but it's enough to make him stand out from the rest of the D tier crowd. And that's the D tier rundown. Sure, they're not amazing, but sometimes you've got to make do with what you've got. Let me know which of these units you think deserve a little more love, or maybe less. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Boulder Lee, Inoki, Neja, Bulba, Zenith, Vigoto, Heiei, and Killer. Alright folks, let's talk about some of the most meh units in Anime Reborn. Yep, we're diving into the C tier, the land of potential, but also a lot of frustration. If you're tired of units that almost shine but somehow manage to dim themselves in the process, buckle up because this tier is a wild ride. Let's kick things off with Boulder Lee, who's got that sweet full AoE potential once you max him out. Sounds amazing, right? Well, hold on, because that's the catch, you have to max him out. In shorter modes, he's like that friend who shows up to the party just as it's ending. Great for infinite mode though, so if you're grinding there, keep him on your radar. Moving on, we've got Inoki, and oh boy, this one hurts. Inoki feels like he's competing with Haie for the title of most forgettable epic unit. Low range, low damage, it's a sad story really. You'll use him once and then probably never again. At least Haie keeps him company at the bottom of the barrel. Speaking of Haie, let's just get him out of the way. His range is low, his damage is weak, and honestly, he's the unit equivalent of soggy cereal. You want him to be good, but he's just not. Next. Now, here's a little redemption arc. Neja. This unit is downright painful at first, horrible on placement, but if you've got the patience to fully upgrade him, he transforms into a monster. Full AoE, solid range, and pretty decent DPS for an epic. It's like watching a zero to hero anime, except this hero takes a lot of cash to get there. Next up is Bulba, our little money making machine. She's cheap, cheerful, and a must have for short modes where cash flow is king. Honestly, she's the MVP of C tier for what she brings to the table. Bulba may not be flashy, but she's reliable. We stand a financially savvy queen. Now, let's talk about Zenith. He's the best starter epic unit in the game, hands down. Full AoE right out of the gate, sign me up. But here's the kicker, don't upgrade him too much. He loses that sweet full AoE with his second attack, which feels like a betrayal. Just keep him at level 1 and let him do his thing. Then there's Vagoto. His passive gives him extra range, which is cool, but it's not enough to make him viable. It's like having a sports car with no fuel. You'll look at him and think, this could be great, but it just isn't. Finally, we have Killer, the stun support with a trick up his sleeve. Air targeting at max upgrades, that's actually pretty neat if you're lacking a legendary air hitter. But let's be real, he's overshadowed by units like Rookie and Darkbeard, who just do his job better. He's like the sidekick in a superhero movie, helpful but never the star. And that's your whirlwind tour of the C tier in Anime Reborn. Some diamonds in the rough, some straight up duds, but hey, that's the beauty of tier lists, right? Let me know in the comments, are you rocking any of these units or are they collecting dust in your inventory? The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Jonas, Brolio, Yasuke, Super Gohu powered, Dragon Emperor, King Rimura, Gohan, Yamo, and Lucky One. Alright, buckle up folks because we're diving straight into the B tier units of Anime Reborn, where the competition is fierce, but these guys still hold their own in the spotlight. Whether you're grinding infinite or just looking to add some spice to your roster, these characters bring unique strengths and a few quirks that keep them from climbing higher. Let's break it down. First up, let's talk about Jonas. This guy is your go-to for hybrid DPS and shield breaking shenanigans. Plus, he's got burn effects in his kit, which is always fun to watch in action. While Jonas is undeniably solid, you might find yourself benching him for stronger legendaries down the line. But hey, if you love seeing shields crumble, he's your man. Now, we can't ignore Brolio, the AoE monster with some serious scaling power. Once evolved, his passive kicks in, boosting his damage the longer he attacks. He's an infinite mode star. Seriously, you'll feel unstoppable with this guy in your team. Just make sure to keep the pressure on, and Brolio will do the rest. Yasuke is next, bringing good DPS and range to the table. But let's be real, when stacked against other legendaries in assault ranges, he's not exactly stealing the show. He's reliable but not extraordinary, kind of like that dependable buddy who always shows up but doesn't bring the party vibes. Speaking of mixed feelings, let's chat about Super Gohu. This hill unit is surprisingly handy with decent DPS, but his line attack feels like it's holding him back. And don't even get me started on his passive, it's straight up garbage. He's the classic, could have been amazing story, but hey, sometimes you just work with what you've got. Dragon Emperor. Now here's a hybrid unit with meta written all over it. Full AoE, crazy high stats, and a support passive when evolved. Sign me up. The catch? Grinding for this beast is a serious pain, but if you've got the patience or the stamina, Dragon Emperor will make it worth your while. Moving on, we've got King Rimura, a scaling DPS machine. This guy shines in infinite mode thanks to his scaling passives and solid damage output. The downside, he doesn't have that sweet full AoE like Dragon Emperor or 21. Still, if you're playing the long game, King Rimura won't disappoint. Let's not forget Gohan, a hybrid exclusive unit that's practically built for wave clearing chaos. He's immune to stuns, his damage ramps up as he slays enemies, and his multi-hit line AoE is chef's mess. Oh, and his DPS combined with a low SPA, absolute gold. Gohan might not break the game, but he'll break your enemies for sure. Finally, there's Lucky One, the wild card. Stunning enemies every 3 seconds sounds great on paper, and his stat boosts after recovering from stun are cool, but his DPS leaves a lot to be desired. As a support unit though, he's pretty meta. Just don't rely on him to carry your team and you'll be fine. So there you have it, the good, the bad, and the almost amazing of Anime Reborn's B tier units. They might not be S tier material, but they bring plenty of utility and flair to your lineup. Got a favorite from the list? Drop it in the comments below. I'm dying to know who you're rocking with. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Hawkeyes, Oda, Pain, Kuza, Darkbeard, 21, Dragon Emperor, Lord Rimura, Unigossi, Delta Brothers, Mercury, Yano, Picoro Yellow, Oster, and Droid 18. Alright, buckle up, because we're diving into the A tier units of Anime Reborn. The absolute game changers who are just shy of being the best of the best, but still pack a serious punch. Whether you're up against a swarm of mobs or taking down a boss with way too much health, these units are your secret weapon. Let's get into why they deserve that A tier spotlight. First up, Hawkeyes. This guy is the boss killer extraordinaire, and let me tell you, he does not mess around. With a passive that gives him plus 100% damage against bosses and a jaw-dropping plus 250% when evolved, he's practically built for those intense showdowns. And it's not just bosses he's good against. His cone AoE attack and low SBA make him a beast at mowing down mobs too. If you're struggling with tough fights, Hawkeyes is your guy. Now, let's talk about Oda. This unit brings some serious versatility with his big AoE attack at max upgrades. His crit buffing passive is the cherry on top, making him a reliable all-around choice. But, and it's a big but, he can't target air enemies, which holds him back compared to other mythics. Don't let that stop you from using him though, Oda's still a powerhouse on the ground. On the support side, we've got Pain. He's a bit of a mixed bag. Pain stuns enemies every 4 attacks, which is super useful in tight spots. Plus, he's full AoE, which sounds amazing on paper. But his DPS? Not great. If you're looking for pure damage or top tier utility, there are better options. That said, Pain shines when you need crowd control. Kuza though is an absolute gem for beginners. As one of the best DPS and shield breaking legendaries, he's got super low SBA and solid range, making him perfect for early game domination. Seriously, if you're just starting out, Kuza will carry you through so many fights you'll lose count. Speaking of support units, say hello to Darkbeard. This guy is a meta favorite, and for good reason. He's full AoE when maxed out, and his attacks slow enemies, which is a lifesaver in tougher modes. The only downside? His upgrades are a little pricey, but if you can afford to invest in him, you'll quickly see why he's so highly rated. Then there's 21, who's just a monster in most modes. She starts as a full AoE unit but loses it at max upgrade. Don't worry though, sure, because she gains a massive range boost instead. Oh, and did I mention she's a heal unit? That means she can target those pesky air enemies and carry you through practically any challenge. Let's not forget Dragon Emperor, a hybrid unit who's got everything you could ask for. Insane stats, a support passive when evolved, and full AoE. The only catch is that grinding for him will test your patience. But hey, no pain, no gain, right? Finally, we've got Unigossi, a shield-breaking queen with a ground line AoE attack. Her multi-hit and bleed effects make her a nightmare for region enemies. She's a bit of a specialist, but when you need a shield broken or a region boss dealt with, she's clutch. And there you have it. These A tier units are proof that you don't always need the absolute best to dominate an Anime Reborn. That was strong, versatile, and just a lot of fun to use. Got a favorite A tier unit I didn't hype up enough? Let me know in the comments because I know you've got opinions on these meta monsters. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Itaha, Greybeard, Water Goddess, Speed Cart, and Rookie. Alright, buckle up because we're diving straight into the heavy hitters of Anime Reborn, the S tier units that are so good, they make every other unit look like background characters. If you're aiming for dominance in the game, these units aren't just strong, they're meta-defining. Let's break them down, starting with some absolute legends. First up, Itaha. This guy is the definition of firepower. Literally, he applies burn damage, which means he's constantly chipping away at enemies even after his attacks land. Add to that his insane DPS and range, and you've got a unit that feels tailor-made for clearing out waves of mobs. Oh, and did I mention he's a hybrid unit? Yeah, that's right, no need to worry about ground or air enemies. Itaha's got you covered for both, and while he's not specifically a boss killer, he can hold his own if you're still building towards someone like Hawkeyes. Then we've got Greybeard, and honestly, he might be my personal favorite right now. Full AoE, hybrid capabilities, and that range. He's like the Swiss Army knife of units, useful in literally every situation. But here's the kicker, evolve him and he gets a stun ability. Yes, a stun. This guy is a game changer, whether you're tackling bosses, mobs, or just flexing on your friends. Meta? Absolutely. Overpowered? Possibly. Do we love him for it? 100%. Let's not forget Water Goddess, the queen of versatility. Sure, she's not the most destructive unit out there, but her range buffing support makes her an essential part of any serious team. She also pulls double duty as a shield breaker, and while she's not the best at it, she gets the job done. Think of her as that dependable friend who might not steal the spotlight but always has your back. Reliable, effective, and yes, definitely S-tier material. Now, for all my farming enthusiasts out there, let's talk speed cart. If you're running Tuffle Infinite mode, you already know this unit is non-negotiable. He's expensive, sure, but the benefits far outweigh the costs. Not only does he rake in resources like an absolute boss, but he also reduces upgrade costs by 15% for the first 5 units in his range. That's a game changer for late game setups. Honestly, if you're not using speed cart, what are you even doing? Finally, Rookie, the legendary support unit that every team needs. She's got freezing capabilities thanks to her passive, making her an incredible crowd control option. Pair that with her solid DPS, and she's not just a support unit, she's a must-have unit. Rookie can completely change the flow of a battle, stopping enemies in their tracks while your heavy hitters clean up the rest. In a word, clutch. So there you have it, the best of the best. Whether you're clearing waves, farming resources, or taking down bosses, these units are your ticket to dominating Anime Reborn. Which one's your favorite? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, good luck out there. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.